Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're wading into some interesting territory. We're looking at bullshit receptivity.
Yeah, it's a big one,
Yeah.
especially now, right, with the digital age, just the sheer volume of information.
It's overwhelming.
Totally. And quality control is, well, it's a massive challenge. So misinformation spreads like wildfire, and we need to understand why some people seem to accept it more easily.
Right. And it's important, I think, to be clear about what we mean by bullshit here. It's not exactly the same as lying.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
A lie is, intentionally deceptive. The speaker knows the truth and says the opposite.
Okay.
But bullshit. The key thing is indifference to the truth. The person saying it might not even know or care what the truth is. They're usually trying to persuade you, maybe impress you.
Beyond important, maybe.
Exactly. Whether it matches reality is sort of beside the point for them.
And the research we're diving into today gets even more specific. It talks about pseudo-profound bullshit.
Ah, yes. The classic.
It sounds deep, right? The grammar's correct. It feels like it should mean something.
But when you actually try to pin it down, there's nothing there. It's just like an illusion of depth.
Can you give us an example, something concrete?
Oh, sure. Think about those, really abstract quotes you see sometimes, like, wholeness vibrates through the quantum consciousness of being.
Okay, yeah. Sounds weighty.
Sounds weighty, exactly. But what does it actually mean? It's designed to feel profound, not to convey real information.
Got it. So our mission today comes from this big meta-analysis. Quite a bit of data here.
Yeah, 46 studies pulled from, I think, over 450 articles reviewed. Really comprehensive.
And the goal was to nail down the individual traits, the things about us that correlate with bullshit receptivity. Basically, why do some people see that empty phrase and think, wow, that's deep?
And it matters. This isn't just academic. Accepting bullshit can have real consequences. Think about health decisions.
Like during COVID, people avoiding vaccines based on misinformation.
Precisely. Or even how people vote. It can influence really critical choices.
Okay, so let's start with the defenses. What protects people? What traits have that inverse relationship? You score high on these, you're less likely to buy the bullshit.
Right, the cognitive shields, as it were. Well, the clearest finding, the one that showed up again and again, I think in 33 of the studies, was cognitive reflection.
Cognitive reflection. Okay, break that down for us. What is that, practically speaking?
It's basically your ability to override your gut instinct. That first quick intuitive answer that pops into your head.
Yeah.
Cognitive reflection is about pausing, stepping back, and engaging in more deliberate analytical thinking instead of just going with that first impulse. System 2 over System 1. You like the psych terms.
So someone high in cognitive reflection reads that quantum consciousness quote and their brain goes,
Hang on a second. What does that actually mean?
hurry!
To question it. Whereas someone lower might just accept the feeling, the sort of aura of profundity.
Okay, that makes sense. And the correlation was strong. Negative, you said.
Yes. Quite strong, consistently negative, higher reflection, lower bullshit receptivity. It seems to be a key defense. And wasn't the only cognitive skill.
What else came up?
General verbal intelligence was also a strong protector. People who are better with language seem more adept at spotting the flaws, the inconsistencies hidden under the surface of those pseudo-profound statements.
They can see through the fancy words.
Pretty much, yeah. And interestingly, even numerical abilities showed a negative link. Basic arithmetic skills.
Really? Numbers. How does that connect?
Well, it may be a bit weaker, but it was statistically significant. And I think the overall picture here,
What's the common thread?
it all points towards analytical thinking,
Mhm.
reflection, verbal skills, even numeracy. They're all tied to being more analytical, more deliberative. So if you tend not to engage that analytical side,
They're more susceptible.
that's what the data strongly suggests. Less reflection, more vulnerability to this specific kind of, bullshit.
Okay, that provides a really clear picture of the defenses. But now, let's flip it. What about the things that make people more likely to fall for it? The factors with a positive correlation.
Right. This is where we move from cognitive skills into belief systems and thinking styles.
And what did the analysis find here?
A big category was what the researchers called epistemologically suspect beliefs, which is a fancy way of saying.
Beliefs not really based on evidence.
Exactly. Things grounded more in intuition, tradition, maybe personal conviction, rather than, say, empirical data.
And what specific beliefs showed up?
There were pretty clear positive correlations with a few things. paranormal beliefs, for one.
Like ghosts, psychics?
Yeah, that sort of thing. Also a general conspiracy mentality.
Believing in hidden plots, secret groups running things?
Right. And religious beliefs also showed a positive correlation, although maybe a bit more moderate.
So it seems like it's less about the specific belief itself and more about a general openness to explanations that aren't, strictly scientific or evidence-based. A willingness to see patterns, maybe.
That's a great way to put it. It's about the underlying framework. And feeding directly into that, one of the strongest single factors positively linked to receptivity was faith in intuition.
So relying on your gut feelings.
Very much so. The more people reported trusting their intuition, their subjective sense of things, to make judgments,
The higher their bullshit receptivity score.
exactly. It was a really strong link, which makes sense, right? If you prioritize feeling over analysis.
You're basically turning off that cognitive reflection we talked about earlier. You're asking, does it feel profound? Not, is it actually profound?
Precisely. And there's one more related concept here, ontological confusions.
Ontological confusions. Okay, what does that mean?
It's about blurring the lines between different kinds of reality, confusing subjective, mental, or immaterial things with objective, physical, material things.
Can you give an example?
The paper mentioned things like believing prayer can directly cause specific physical healing, or that just thinking positively can physically alter events in the material world.
So mixing up mind and matter, almost. Treating thoughts or feelings as if they have direct physical force.
Yeah, that's the essence of it.
Well,
and if you already tend to blur those lines,
Then a pseudo-profound statement that vaguely links, say, your inner state to the universe.
it sounds completely plausible. It fits right into that worldview. It lets
Yeah,
the
yeah.
bullshit statement kind of bridge those categories in your mind.
Okay, this is fascinating. Let's shift focus slightly now to the statements themselves. The meta-analysis didn't just look at pseudo-profound BS, did it? It looked at how receptivity relates to perceiving other kinds of statements, too.
Right. And this led to perhaps the single most striking finding in the whole analysis.
Oh, what was that?
The strongest correlation by far was between bullshit receptivity and finding motivational quotes profound.
Wait, like inspirational posters, live, laugh, love type stuff.
Basically, yes. Or those, earnest quotes about success or purpose you see all over LinkedIn or Instagram. Statements that are usually pretty clear, direct language.
Not abstract nonsense, then.
No, not empty like the pseudo-profound stuff, but often quite shallow, maybe platitudes, things like believing yourself and anything is possible.
And people high in bullshit receptivity rated those as more profound.
Significantly more. That correlation, RE 0.429, was much stronger than most of the other variables we've discussed.
Wow. So a love for generic positivity seems to go hand in hand with falling for the empty stuff. What else?
It also correlated positively, though less strongly, with rating mundane statements as profound.
Mundane, like just obvious facts.
Exactly. The example they used was something like, most things have characteristics, or human cultures often differ from each other.
Things that are clearly true, but obviously not deep.
Right. But people high in bullshit receptivity tended to rate even these obvious statements as being surprisingly profound.
Okay, so let's piece this together. People high in receptivity love motivational quotes, they think obvious facts are deep, and they fall for the pseudo-profound stuff. What's the underlying pattern here?
It points very strongly towards something the researchers call response bias.
Response bias, meaning?
It suggests that for these individuals, it's not just about failing to critique complex or abstract statements. It's more like a general tendency, a predisposition.
Just see depth everywhere.
Kind of. A tendency to interpret almost any statement presented to them, whether it's empty, obvious, motivational, maybe even genuinely insightful, as being relatively profound. They seem to lack the critical discrimination.
Like their profundity dial is just stuck on high.
That's a pretty good analogy, actually. Yes, an uncritical affirmation, almost, regardless of the actual content. Lack of discernment.
So bringing this all together, what are the big takeaways for us, navigating the world? Clearly, critical thinking is key, but there were some caveats, right? Some nuances in the data.
Absolutely. A really important one is the high heterogeneity found in most of these correlations. The I282 values were often above 75%.
Okay, I282 heterogeneity. For those of us not living in meta-analyses, what does that mean in plain English?
It means that while the average finding holds true, like cognitive reflection generally protects you, the strength of that effect can vary a lot depending on the specific group of people, the context, the country, maybe even the type of bullshit being presented.
So it's not a uniform effect.
Not at all. Think of it like diet advice.
Yeah.
Saying eat vegetables is generally good advice, but which vegetables, how much, and for whom? That varies hugely based on individual needs and context. The effect isn't the same for everyone, everywhere.
Did the research give examples of how context matters?
Yes, they touched on that. They mentioned, for instance, that someone's susceptibility might be higher in areas where they feel confident, maybe overly so. Like young men very confident in their financial knowledge might be more susceptible to specifically financial bullshit.
So the bullshit needs to match the audience's perceived expertise in a way.
It seems like the context and the person's own self-perception within that context can really moderate the effect. It's not one size fits all.
And there's also a geographical limitation, wasn't there?
A significant one. Most of the studies were done in Canada and the U.S.
Mostly North America.
Right. Which means we need to be cautious about just assuming these exact same patterns and strengths would hold up in, say, East Asia or Africa or South America. Culture likely plays a role we haven't fully mapped yet.
Okay, so to wrap up our deep dive then, we've seen this sort of push and pull. On one side, you have analytical skills, cognitive reflection, verbal smarts acting as a shield.
A definite defense mechanism.
And on the other side, you have things like relying heavily on intuition, maybe some ontological confusion, certain belief patterns, all increasing vulnerability.
Making people more likely to accept statements uncritically, especially if they feel profound. It really emphasizes that susceptibility isn't just about raw intelligence, but about the willingness to engage critically.
To pause and ask, wait, does this actually make sense?
Yes.
So given all this, especially that high heterogeneity you mentioned, showing how much context matters, here's something to think about. Could future research move beyond just looking for average correlations?
What are you thinking?
Well, could researchers use something like mixture models to see if there are distinct types or profiles of people? Subgroups that aren't just high or low in general receptivity, but maybe highly receptive to scientific-sounding bullshit versus spiritual bullshit or financial bullshit.
So identifying different flavors of susceptibility.
Exactly. Because if we could identify those distinct profiles, maybe we could develop more tailored ways to help people build defenses, rather than just a generic think critically message. It could lead to much more targeted interventions.
That's a really interesting direction. Moving from a general understanding to identifying specific vulnerability patterns.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be incredibly valuable.